Hi, everyone. My name's Lynda Shellist, and I'm happy to welcome you to our Mix and Mingle session for Usher syndrome. I'm the Associate Director of Events for the Midwest region, and our office is located in the Chicago suburbs. I've been with the foundation for 6 years, and I'm so happy to be with all of you today. Before we get started, I want to review some logistical details for this session. First of all, you're all on mute, so if you'd like to talk, please unmute yourself. So things for you to know, this session is being recorded and is available in closed captioning. To activate the closed captioning, just select closed captioning at the bottom of the interface. And for you're using a screen reader, please be aware the controls are at the bottom of the Zoom interface. The control bar may collapse when not in use. If you prefer to prevent the controls from auto-hiding, go to the settings within the Zoom platform, select accessibility, and select always show meeting controls. All sessions during the conference will be recorded and will be available to view at a later date. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage you all to be social with us. Please share your experience using the hashtag Visions2020 on both Facebook and Twitter. Again, I'd like to welcome all of you to our Mix and Mingle session for Usher syndrome. The idea behind these sessions is allow you to meet others from around the country that are affected with Usher syndrome and facing similar challenges. Feel free to share your thoughts, your comments, your ideas throughout the session. And once again, everyone is currently on mute. If you'd like to talk, please unmute yourself. And we will get started. Does anyone have anything in particular that they'd like to talk about with this group? Remember to unmute yourself if you'd like to talk. Nothing in particular, I see. Well, let me ask, what are some of the challenges that you're facing with Usher syndrome? Does anyone have anything to share of the challenges that they're facing with Usher syndrome? Please unmute yourself. You just need to go to the bottom of your screen. You'll see the little microphone is red, and you just click on that to unmute.
Alert, audio now unmuted. Menu bar, Zoom, to navigate, press left.
Great. I hear someone wants to talk, so please join us.
Lynda?
Yes.
This is Martha Steele.
Hi, Martha. How are you?
Fine. I'm currently in Vermont, but I'm from the Boston area.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure you were talking about how to unmute by looking at a screen, but for those that are using a screen reader, it's Alt plus the letter A, in case people forget sometimes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Alt plus the letter A.
Yes, we'll mute. It just toggles on and off, mute, unmute. Yes, I have Usher type 2A. And there are a lot of challenges. I have 2 cochlear implants. And at this point, very little vision. I'm in my upper 60s. It's an interesting observation to me. I've been losing my vision, of course, kind of slowly over the years. And I would say in the last 6 months or so, I've lost a tremendous amount of whatever little vision I had back then. I do believe that Moira Shea is on this call. I think I heard her join the call, and she has told me, in a way, once you get to the point that you don't have any vision, you kind of, it's the end of the adjustments period, and you finally know what you have to deal with, and in some way it's a little bit of a relief. And I guess to me it almost is a little bit of a relief. One of the things about losing vision and hearing to an extent slowly but surely is that you're constantly making adjustments. And so you make an adjustment and you're going along, and then you have to make another adjustment. And that's sort of what happens, I think, for all of us that have some sort of progressive loss. I guess I would just say that that's certainly a challenging part of any sort of progressive condition like RP or Usher, is a constant series of adjustments that you have to make and then those around you have to make.
That's a very good point, Martha. Do you have any ways that you make those adjustments that might be helpful for others to hear? Or are there others that would like to share their experiences with making those constant adjustments?
Sort of a hard question to answer because it's all specific to what you do. But I do think the faster you accept the loss and then look for ways to address it. I'll give a good example. The one time a couple of months ago, and I'm in a very rural spot, so we cook. We have a wood stove with firewood, and the firewood is outside in the shed. And normally, up until now, I've been able to find my way to the shed and back to the front door with firewood without any trouble. There was enough contrast in the environment that I could see it. But a couple of months ago, when we still had snow up here in Vermont, I could not see the house when I turned around to take some wood in. And I ended up not finding the walkway and kind of wandering around and eventually having to yell quite loudly to my mother, who was inside the house, who fortunately heard me and was able to find me and direct me back to the house. So that was sort of a revelation of, oops, I can't go out there alone without having some strategy to make sure I don't get lost between the woodshed and the house. Mm-hmm. And so I developed a rope system where I tied it on to a particular post on the sidewalk and just took the rope with me to the woodshed and tied it there. And then I could follow the rope back to the sidewalk. So I guess my answer is recognize what the change is and then figure out how to address it and get beyond it.
Well, that was very smart of you to figure out using a rope like that. I love that idea. Has anyone else had any interesting ideas on ways to help them to manage those new challenges? I know there's several of you out there, and I'd love to hear from you. And so would Martha, I'm sure.
I'll chime in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Sure. My name is Katelyn. I am in the Portland, Oregon area. You might have seen my my youngest, my 3-year-old, pop in the screen briefly, and then he's off again.
As they do.
Our home here has stairs up to the front door as well as stairs off the deck. And it's not an adjustment that I have implemented yet, but I've been pondering ordering some tape to put at that top step of the deck. I've looked around on Amazon. I've had it in my cart, and I kind of keep, I'm not sure what my hesitation is, honestly, but to put tape, basically a dark tape along the top step, just to, I always have that momentary fear of, okay, I'm gonna miss a step and then go down, tumbling, which no one wants to have happen. But right now I'm a little extra cautious in grabbing the rail to go down the deck, but I'm not sure if I want to stick down something glow in the dark, or just the tape I've seen is black with a colored center line down the middle. And I think it's also one of those anti-slip, kind of a grip type material that can stick down. So it's just a matter of stop thinking about it, go ahead and do it. I've got 3 kids, 9, almost 7, and almost 3. So they're kind of, that's my busy life right now. A lot of other tools I'm sure I could implement just have been a bit on the slow side. Like many other moms out there, you know, you think of the family, think of the kids, and then you're kind of the afterthought. And I know, you know, for safety purposes, I need to get better about just moving forward with different solutions. I did a brief stint of mobility and orientation training. Sad to say, I'm one of those people that I have a cane and have not bridged the how to actually use it on a day-to-day basis. It's more just my own, I'm my own roadblock. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's a really interesting way to put it, that you're your own roadblock. As a mother with 3 children myself, I know how busy that life is and how easy it is to put your kids ahead of you. But I hope you will take the time to put yourself first. And maybe after this call, you can get on Amazon and make that purchase, the one you've been wanting to. So I encourage you to do that. Take time for yourself. Your kids will always be there and they'll always love you. So anybody else in this group that uses a cane and that can help Katelyn with some ideas for that? No one else in this group uses a cane?
I'm here for my daughter. So my daughter uses a cane, but I came on very late because somehow the link to this session was in my junk mail, and I looked everywhere and finally thought to look there. So I'm sorry that I'm late to the session.
No worries. We're glad to have you join us.
Thank you. Yeah, and my daughter does use a cane, and she has any number of different ones, but because I came in late, I didn't even hear the full question, so I apologize.
Well, Katelyn was telling us about how she has a cane and she's taken some mobility and orientation training. But Katelyn, am I right? She's a little hesitant to use the cane. And I think that can be pretty common. So we're just talking about ways to help each other. When we know a cane will be helpful, what are the things that are holding us back from using it? And what are some ways that we can embrace to actually move forward and use that helpful device? So what have you found out for your daughter? Does she use it all the time?
My daughter is now 41, so this is an adult daughter. And a lot of you may know her, Rebecca Alexander. She's written a lot and she's spoken to a lot of groups. And
we love Rebecca. She's amazing. She is amazing.
I'm Terry, and I'm a former.
Well, nice to meet you, Terry.
Oh, you too. I'm a former employee of FFB, and then also I'm a national trustee of FFB. But I will say,
wonderful.
The one thing that Rebecca always talks about is that using a cane suddenly transformed her from being that person who's always bumping into everybody and everybody's going, look out, hey, watch where you're going, and that kind of thing, to all of a sudden now the water's part, and oh, may I help you? How can I help? And she found that it was very, very empowering, as much as she feared getting to that moment. And I remember the story that she tells about the first time she really felt the impact of using a cane and how scary it was. That she was walking down the street, and this is when she lived in LA, and it's a very busy, car-oriented city. And so she felt that she needed the cane to navigate the sidewalks and cross the street. And it was dusk, and she got to the crosswalk, and she's using her cane to cross, and all of a sudden, just the car, with its headlights now newly on, stops suddenly for her. And she wasn't used to that. And as she walked across the street with her cane, she began crying because it was actually scary to her to suddenly realize, I'm that person, and everybody else is going to part the ways for. But that was the difficult moment. And once she saw that it actually worked, she began using it a lot. And so she does use it particularly in darker situations when she knows she needs it. So that I will now relinquish the floor to others.
That's a great story. I've seen Rebecca speak. She's very powerful. And I am well aware that people do have a hard time getting started with a cane. And once they do, it's hard to turn back, right? Like for Rebecca, then you realize it's a good thing. Anybody else have a story that they want to share about when they started using a cane?
This is Martha again. I certainly echo the encouragement to use a cane. I think right now I have a guide dog, so but I used a cane for many years, and initially I used a cane almost for identification. I had too many instances of running over young children, toddlers, and getting a screaming child on the pavement and a very angry parent telling me to watch out. And not to mention
Alert.
apologies,
Left the meeting.
not to mention apologies to fire hydrants and cones on warning cones and things like that. But it really makes a huge difference between producing all this anger, generating all this anger because you're bumping into people inadvertently versus parting of the way when you have a cane, and people understanding if you do bump into them and they see the cane and they're the ones saying I'm sorry instead of you. So it's not only good for you to avoid obstacles, but it lets the rest of the world know that you don't see as well as they do, and therefore they have the opportunity
Alert. Data Simon has joined.
to prevent any sort of collision just as much as you do. So I'm a strong fan of the cane. I think it really, I used it for a long time. But I'm also a very strong fan of guide dogs.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Martha. That's really interesting way to look at it, not just as a help to you, but also as a help to others. So they're aware of your vision impairment and they can help you. So it's a really great way to look at it. And how long have you had your guide dog?
Let's see, about 4.5 years.
Oh, nice. And I know guide dogs, they're just another member of the family, right? You get very close with them. Does
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
else on this call have a guide dog that they use?
Hold the audio
Yeah?
now.
This is Moira. Can you hear me?
Yes, Moira, hi.
Hi. I just wanted to chime in on the question, and I took cane training, but I could never pull the cane out. It just stayed on the shelf in my closet for many years. I was much more receptive to getting a guide dog, and that just totally changed my life, improved my independence. And I think it's less stressful than a cane. I remember one of my first
New
evening, my
notification
dog,
from Mail Martin Goldberg.
my dog at night just taking me home,
No
and I didn't
notification
have
from me.
to. I was on autopilot. I didn't really need to focus, and when you have to focus a lot, it causes a lot of fatigue. And the one advice I have from vision loss and all of these adjustments is try to stay ahead of the curve. So when you feel like you're getting to the point where you're having trouble with your computer, learn then how to utilize the screen reading technology. If you're having trouble with your phone, learn how to use VoiceOver, which is on every iPhone, and there's an Android component as well. But the VoiceOver is relatively easy to learn to use, and it will take the stress out of your life. Just really, just stay ahead of the curve. I remember, painting the inside of my house different colors so I would have more contrast going from room to room, changing the lighting all the time to deal with the different levels of vision. But that enabled me to be as independent as long as possible. But regarding guide dogs, I'm on my fourth guide dog, and when I got my first one, it just totally changed my world, and it's the best decision I ever made. And I can go shopping independently, not in the time of coronavirus. I don't know what's going to happen with all of this signage and keeping 6 feet away. And I know people who are hard of hearing or deaf, they can't read lips anymore, and people are having issues with the coronavirus. But I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Moira. Sounds like you've made a lot of great adjustments in your life. Who else has had any issues with coronavirus? I mean, I know all of us have, but what sort of issues have you had to deal with having Usher syndrome and dealing with the craziness going on in the world? I know they've made some masks that are clear so people could read lips. I've seen that. Do any of you have one of those or have had anything to help you during this time?
I'll jump in on that one.
Great.
Yes, to answer your latest question about the clear mask, I have a sister that has a hearing loss, no vision issues. So for me, I have both vision and hearing. I wear 2 hearing aids, and her and I have related on the mask wearing in public. There's the frustration that I feel like is out there a lot has to do with when people come to us, oh, they're the great solution, the clear mask. Well, it only works when other people wear them, not when we wear them. We need to read the lips of other people out there. So there's kind of that mindset that needs to be adjusted a little bit. All masks were clear, great. And it's hard to believe what information is really true, like anything with media. What do you believe and not believe? I've heard one comment made that the clear masks are not as effective as without the clear vinyl or whatever product that they used in there. As far as your initial comment about the adjustments or frustrations, I'm married. My husband has a hearing loss as well, so he and I relate to that. But he does not have any vision issues, so he primarily does our shopping. But like any mom at home with kids, you need to get out at least a little bit. But my biggest frustration has not always been being able to see the arrows on the floor. Not all stores, but some have taped down arrows to kind of control the direction, the flow of traffic within the store. The first time I saw that was actually in Trader Joe's. So I not only had the little bit of anxiety going in there wearing the mask that was fogging up my glasses. So I either had to choose to lift up my glasses and not see as well, or deal with the fogginess on top of the arrows on the ground, the floor, and being mindful of people around me, because now all of a sudden there's the don't bump into me. I think there's a little less grace in that. Just the social distancing. So there's multiple things here. And the other layer is, of course, not hearing people when they're talking. And traditionally, I've been able to tell someone, please look at me, speak loudly and clearly, and that will suffice most of the time. Now they can be looking at me and I still don't understand them. Just yesterday, we were in a garden nursery, and same situation, not being able to lip read. We had to turn to my, our oldest is 9, and had to kind of turn to him, what are they saying? Because both my husband and I were kind of stuck. It's a little discouraging. I know this is not a forever time, but it really does discourage you from going out.
That's very interesting. It didn't occur to me that how important it is for those clear masks that it's for everyone else to be wearing. So you could lip read. So, and those arrows on the ground, I often find myself, or on the floor of a store, I often find myself walking down an aisle, and I'll look down and go, oops, I'm walking down the wrong way. So there's a lot of things, yeah, but I can imagine how difficult that was. Good for you for going to Trader Joe's, one of my favorite stores, and finding your way through. That's great.
I was going to mention that I just read, I can't remember whose coronavirus update it was, that mentioned that Orange County, California has now been providing face shields, the clear full-on face shields for everyone.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I can't remember, I think they had some donations, and then they had something in their coffers that they weren't able to do it. Particularly they mentioned Long Beach. But anyway, it's something that we all, the Usher related community, could advocate for, because those face shields actually provide even more protection than the masks. And another tip that I had for Katelyn, as far as your mask steaming up, they have the same, on the same report today, I read that if you push your mask up high enough and then put your glasses over the top edge of the mask, they don't steam up. I just went on a walk, I tried it, and for the first time, I didn't steam up. So that's a thought.
Good to know. I think everyone has that issue. That is really good to know. And that is very exciting for that city in California. It would be great if everyone had those, because they do, they are much better at protecting you, from what I understand. So it would be great for you guys to, for the Usher community to advocate for that.
Hello. Hi, I'm Dana
Hi, Dana.
from Brooklyn. Yes, I came in late because my links from Foundation Fighting Blindness were going to spam for some reason.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, so I had to get it out of spam and then get the link to get here. But so I don't know why, but some of them, only some going to spam and not others. So
I know.
Anyway.
Well, I'm glad that you made it.
Okay.
So Dana,
and
we
I'm
were
from
just,
Brooklyn.
uh-huh.
Well, I did hear the question just before. So, so we use a lot of face masks here in Brooklyn. And I have, you know, I have Ushers 3. So this is the Ushers group, right?
That's correct. You're in the right place.
Okay. And so I, you know, the hardest part is with the hearing loss, with someone masked over their face, their voice sounds muffled. So, so the hearing part, but I've seen a Facebook post by people who have good hearing and they can't hear either, blind users who have a lot of trouble with the face mask. So it muffles everyone's voices. So, and so that's a problem. But I have cochlear implants, so my hearing is pretty good. I still have managed to hear them. So
That's good.
the other thing I wanted to comment on is the other speaker said something about being ahead of the curve. So I agree, is you should really keep up with computer skills and phone skills, everything, because our vision is always changing. You know, every year you might have more of a vision loss, and suddenly you have to learn all these new skills. You got it all figured out one year. Oh, I just gotta make this a little larger or create the contrast. And then the next year that doesn't work. So, so now I'm using a screen reader like VoiceOver and on my phone, and draws on my computer. So I had to, I was working full time when that happened. And it took me a year to really get good at using these screen readers. So talking screen readers. So it's a constant change. It's constant keeping up. So,
Right. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Okay, thanks.
No, thank you very much for sharing that. Does anyone else have any special technology that they use that has been helpful? I know the screen readers are big. So is there anything else that people are using?
Oh, yeah. I'm also using something called the Pearl that attaches to a laptop and it reads documents out loud. I do that. I'm a Cane user.
I've
Oh,
not
I
heard
use a
of the
lot of
Pearl.
apps, all kinds of apps like Envision, Be My Eyes, Zoom. It's wonderful. I go to all, in New York City, we have accessible museum tours that I used to go to, art museums, as I was a former artist. And now we do them by Zoom. So we can go to the Metropolitan Museum and to the Cloisters Gardens and do it all online as a group.
That is true. That's the only silver lining I can find in this whole pandemic is that there is so much that you can see online that you couldn't see before. Besides museums, there's Broadway musicals and, you know, zoos and all sorts of things that have online content that you could go on, you know, tours and visits and, you know, where you never could before unless you actually were there. So you can see the world on your computer. So that's my one benefit for coronavirus. I see no others. Does anyone else?
This is Deb, and I guess one of the gifts of the coronavirus for me is that I'm a counselor and I also teach. And I also have, besides the deafness and the blindness, I have Usher's 2A. I still see some and hear with hearing aids, but more people are interested in doing work by Zoom. And since I have MS, I also have energy issues. And so this is really, you know, what everybody said about canes and all that. I have a guide dog. So I like getting out, but I can't get out a whole lot. And so to be able to work from home and actually make some money is pretty exciting. And I do have, you know, the technology thing, I agree that forever trying to adjust. Right now, I'm having a hard time. Oh, I guess I want to stop first. I have a question, but when I was working for the state as a VR counselor, our teachers used to say that people weren't really going to use their cane until they fell down 3 times, usually down the stairs, and just, you know, so new. And it was really upsetting because a couple of them got really badly hurt or died before they hit the 3rd time. So when you talk about resistance, it's real. I know for myself, I got dared to use my cane for 2 weeks, and at the end of the 2 weeks, I didn't have any bruises on my shins. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I wasn't able to continue using it because I was an electrician, and trying to be an electrician and use a cane wasn't always, you know, it's hard to convince people you can see their wiring. You can see it, but you know, you're moving the cane because you don't want to fall through the holes. It was kind of a, so I use radios. I used you know, the little two-way listening devices to have an escort who told me where the holes were. You know, only I could hear it because I used my Compilot to my hearing aids, and that was how I survived for another 9 years. And then finally I sold that business, and then I could use my cane and joy. But then I did trade to a guide dog. But anyway, my question
Test switching. No desktop button to
is
activate.
how to keep track of time while on Zoom. You know, obviously I have voiceover, but it's not appropriate in the middle of a counseling call to keep bopping your phone, having to announce the time.
Audio menu. Zoom
And I
meeting.
do have Braille skills, but
USB Pro keys. Zoom
I'm
meeting.
not really sure. It'd be nice to have something that would, you know, like the clock is on the bottom of the thing, but I can't quite see it anymore. So
It is very hard to see. I agree. You could always set, if you are trying to pay attention to an end time, you can always set a timer on your cell phone.
right, but I forget to do it and everything, and so I tried. I tried like 6 or 8 different things, and I'm looking at a Braille watch. I didn't know if anybody had a dot Braille watch, if they like that, or anyway. So I'm trying for something silent. That
Does anyone use a watch, a Braille watch?
I got one, but it's very small, so I'm new with Braille, so you have to be able to feel the little dots. So unless you get one with a big face, but I use my phone as a clock mostly, and but I'm.
Does anyone else have any suggestions on how to find out the time when you're on Zoom? What does everyone else use?
Oh, on Zoom. Oh.
Audio now unmuted.
If you're on a computer, this is Martha. If you press, only if you have JAWS. Depends on whether you're a JAWS user or not. If you're a JAWS user, you can always press insert F12 to see what the time is.
That's good to know.
Right.
And I suppose if I had my Braille display on and had JAWS to no speech, that might work. I was wondering about that.
If you're using your iPhone, you can just press the home button and say, what time is it?
Right, but it has to be silent. Nobody can know that I'm doing it.
It has to be silent. Oh, so then Braille might be a good option if you need it to be silent. Usually when I'm on the computer, I'm using headphones. So it doesn't, if you're not using headphones, then everyone's gonna hear, right.
What kind of headphones do you use that work for you? You have hearing aids, you have cochlear. I've tried to use my Compilot to use a headphone, but it didn't work well.
Oh, this is Dana. If you have telephone switches on your hearing aid or cochlear implant, you put them on when you use your headphones, and it works just like the telephone switch on a phone.
Interesting.
Yes, all headphones have built-in magnetic coils in. There are other ways to use, if you have a hearing aid with one of those little portable FM, sometimes you could also plug them into the headphone jack and use your FM to hear.
Audio now unmuted.
Excuse me, this is Moira. I think when you're on Zoom, you know what Martha said. I mean, if you hit Alt A, you will be muted. So you can just hit Alt A and then get the time, and then hit Alt A and become unmuted.
Oh, that's a good idea.
A great idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been doing. But I have a question for the group. First of all, are there any men on the call who would like to contribute? And second is, does anybody use the Apple iPhone map to get to places? I understand it's accessible to people with vision issues. You kind of did a way of utilizing the iPhone to put in your destination, and it'll tell you what street you're turning on and how many feet, et cetera. It's sort of like a trekker. No?
This is Dana. I tried it, but it wasn't working good. So what I'm going to do is I have scheduled for mobility training, and I was going to, she knows all about the different apps. So I did use Soundscapes for Microsoft, but also I know Google Maps and Apple Maps has a special walking direction that for visually impaired. There's some setting there. It's new, and but I haven't really gotten, used it. So I have to practice, and I thought I'd do it with my mobility instructor.
I used Blind Square when I was in New York for some training, and it was awesome because the map was loaded on your phone, so you weren't reliant on a bad signal connection, or because even when I had my trekker, if the darn thing decided the cloud went by, or I don't know what happened to it, you'd be 30 feet off, which sometimes isn't a problem, and sometimes it is, because obviously we're going to use our feet and dogs and canes, so we're not going to go in the road when we shouldn't. But Blind Square was pretty interesting. It was a little bit expensive, but not horrendously. But it loads the map actually on. So it works inside of buildings as well. So
Oh,
that's worth.
wow. Blind Square works inside buildings too?
It's helpful to hear from others what technology and apps they're using. Where else do you all go to get support for your Usher syndrome? Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. So you have a mobility training, as you have someone that you go to, Dana. Are there others that have people that they go to that help them with those things?
Well, the Commission for the Blind, even, if you get your case open, they will help you with mobility. Well, they'll schedule someone here in New York City and Long Island. You can work with Helen Keller National Center, or there are other groups like the Lighthouse and Vision. There may be some in other cities that, and they come to your home and they help you with help you with cooking and mobility, or computer technology even. So that's one option. If you're near the Talking Book Library, if you happen to be near them, they have classes. There's some places you can get, but that's what I've been using here in New York City. We have a library called the Andrew High School Brown Talking Book Library in Manhattan, and you can go there and get all kinds of technology classes and things.
That's great. Does anyone else have any support that they use that they might want to share with the group? Okay. All right, I have a question for you guys. Has anyone had anything funny that's happened to them with having Usher syndrome? Have you experienced anything that something you experienced because you have Usher syndrome that after the fact you laughed about. I'm sure everyone has humorous stories in their day-to-day. So anything you want to share? Dana, you're thinking, I can tell. Do I want to share that
There's so
story
many
or
funny
not?
things that happen every day. Something funny can happen, you know?
Right.
Just the other day, I was trying that app, that Soundscape app, and I'm going down my block with my cane, and it's telling me I reached the intersection. I'm trying to get to a Chinese restaurant, which thank God now has takeout. So, anyway, it wasn't coming up on the app, and I'm sitting there trying to find it. But all these people are hanging out, you know, the guy from the liquor store and the guy from the deli, they're all coming out. You need help, you need help. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm just practicing with my app. So they're all standing there waiting to hear what the app is going to say, you know? It was kind of funny.
How nice to have so many helpers around you.
Yes. So that could be a pain sometimes. Like if you're just like, you know, trying to get somewhere, you have to tell people, no, I don't need help. But the people are very helpful where I live.
Olga,
That's
audio
really
now
nice.
unmuted. Menu bar, leaving menu. Olga, you are muted. Press Alt plus A to unmute.
Well,
Has
I don't
anyone-
know if this
Oh.
is, whoops.
Go ahead, Deb.
If this is, with Usher's funny, but anyhow, and so I had still have a guide dog, and after we made our trip to work, and which was a 90-minute two-bus
Also now
transfer kind
unmuted.
of thing, just before we would walk into the office, the state office, I would stop the dog he had this, at the top of the hill, this one particular fire hydrant he was very fond of. And as a guide dog user, we all know that getting your dog to go whenever you want it to, on the time you want it to, is part of the game. So every night, but it got to be kind of a celebration. He celebrated his way. I had a peace of moment of, yes, I'm 30 feet from the office. This is a good day. We made it. Nothing bad happened. Nobody missed any bus connections. It was always a big celebration. So when I retired my dog, after 10 years, I had to use my cane. And I was observed by one of the other coworkers stopping at the fire hydrant every day with my cane. And they were like, have you thought about this, Deb? I said, oh. So anyway, that was the thing. And so it's like, well.
That's funny. So it's just your stop every day, whether your dog was there to use the fire hydrant or not.
I have a similar story. This is Moira. Years ago, I was having back issues, and to get to work, I had to use the cane instead of my dog. And I took a cab to work, and I got out of the car with the cane, and I'm like, find the door. I was like telling the cane to find the door, like I would tell my dog to find the door. So
you told your cane to find the door.
Yes. Yeah.
And did your cane answer you?
No. But, you know, I know there are some people that really like canes on this call, but I say a cane doesn't have a brain. So if you're working with a guide dog, he'll walk you around people with a cane. You just sort of kind of hit the people, you know, you kind of clip them. You know, and I mean, the dog was great for commuting and going on the metro, and it was just fabulous. And someone was talking earlier, one of the other problems with this coronavirus is that if you're out and, you know, you're just trying to find a door, I mean, people do come to you, and I'm sort of like, say 6 feet away, but their natural inclination is to come near and, you know, grab your arm or something. And I just feel like it just happens too often.
Yeah, people definitely need to be aware that they're being nice to come and help you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you want to say, no, you're socially distanced, please. So. So
let me
you get
ask the
used.
let me ask the moderator a question. Do you have RP?
I do not.
Okay, okay. Okay. I was just wondering if you had a connection to blindness or whatever. Just trying to understand.
So I'm an employee of the Foundation Fighting Blindness.
Okay.
I'm the associate director of events in our Midwest region.
Okay.
So we have offices across the country.
Yes.
So I help put on our vision walks and our galas and
Okay.
wine events, golf events, that sort of thing.
Well, you were asking earlier about what people do for support, the White House for the Blind. I've been associated with the foundation since 1972. I served on the board for 35 years. And the foundation was my main venue for coping and support. Being able to do something, fundraise, and to, deal with this insidious disease was my way of coping. And, it's just been a very supportive organization through the years.
I'm happy to hear that, Moira. That's really nice. That's what we strive to do, as well as funding research and looking for cures and treatments. But supporting all of you is definitely what we're here for as well. And I'm glad we're able to have this mix and mingle session tonight so we can all share ideas. Is there anything else that anybody wants to share?
Lynda, do you mind if I throw out two last questions? I know we're kind of dwindling down on time.
That's okay.
Anyone can throw out ideas on either one, but my first one is related to guide dogs. For anyone that uses a dog or considered using a dog, what happens if you're not, I don't not like animals. We don't own any pets currently other than a couple fish and a tank. I guess I wouldn't say concerned, but wrapping my head around, owning a dog, it sounds like there are some fantastic advantages over a cane, but what if you're just not a big pet lover? That's my first question. And the second one I'll just throw in there. Does anyone in the group use regular or ongoing counseling or support groups outside of just Facebook group? I love Facebook. I think there's some great groups on there to be a part of, a few which I am. I just have a hard time. I'll throw a question on there. Some people will answer, but as far as I don't feel like that's a great source of really connecting. It's still computer, it's still online. So does anyone here use, whether it's one-on-one counseling just for more of the emotional well-being, or do you find that your family and friends are a good enough source for kind of offloading when needed?
So this is Deb, and I'm going to just jump in and say that you gave a really good example of where mental health counseling, I believe, is very, very helpful, because the issue around a guide dog, nobody else can tell you if that's going to work for you.
Virtual vision
It's got to work. So being able to sit with someone who has no vested interest in your outcome, like a mental health counselor who keeps it all confidential, you can work through all of those issues inside, the resistance, the barriers. You can do the research and come back and talk about it. I think, and I'm biased because now I'm a mental health counselor. I wasn't always, but I wish everybody could feel comfortable getting that help, whether they need it for short term or for longer term. It's absolutely honorable and wonderful to have that special support person who doesn't judge you and is not, all the other supports are wonderful and they're great, but everybody's got an agenda. They either want to keep you safe, or they want to keep you here, or they want to keep you learning, they want to keep you, and it's all good. Don't throw any of them out. But I seriously do believe that the stigma around having to be a certain amount of crazy or a certain amount of something to get mental health needs to go away. I really do. And as far as the guide dog, most people that aren't too pet, I never had a dog before. I had my guide dog other than raising a puppy, and I worried about that. And once you fall in love with them, it's fine, but it's kind of like a kid, you know, when they're throwing up and teething and pooping all over you, you have some real serious doubts about, hello, what did I get myself into? And the first 6 months of guide dog work, I'm telling you, it's it's an effort. And then when you lose them, shoots, I've had 4, just like Moira, and it is every single time I say, I will never do this again. I will never cry this hard again. And then I get tired of staying home and trying to get run over, and my cane is pretty dumb like Moira's. And so I get another dog. But I could never have done it without my mental health support. I have wonderful family and wonderful everything, but I couldn't have. I just couldn't, because I shrink up. I get all tight, and I need it. So that's my point. I'll let everybody else talk.
Thank you for sharing that, Deb. That's really helpful. And I will tell you too, Katelyn, there are wonderful organizations, Leader Dogs for the Blind, and the guiding, I can't remember the name of it, but there are others.
Guide Dogs of the Desert also does deaf-blind people. Leader Dogs of the Desert, and Guiding Eyes for the Blind.
Guiding Eyes for the Blind. Thank you. But they will help you if you were interested in doing that. You can talk to them, and they will help you through the process. And it's important that the owner and the dog, that you both connect with each other. And there's a training process involved. So they won't just give you a dog and you go from there. They will support you all the way. So it might be something that you just want to reach out and look into. And see how it goes. So,
this is I would just like to say that Leader Dogs had a very good program for deaf-blind. I was a part of that, and it's interesting. Some of the dogs are trained to do sign language. That's how they communicate. But I also want to say that I've talked to a lot of parents who sort of want their kid to get a guide dog before they go to college, and night vision is an issue. And you know, sometimes these college kids need a dog at night, but not in the daytime, but you really should use it for both. But Leader Dog, I can't remember the age range, but I think it's 16 or 18. If you're under the age of 16 or 18, they will come to your house and train you in your home environment. Sometimes,
that's nice.
Sometimes schools will not, I think this is changing, but many schools would not provide a guide dog to anyone under 18 because they wanted the person to be responsible. But I think that's changing.
What's different?
Dana, I have a question about guide dogs. Because I don't use one. I have my husband. He's my guide dog. I always just. So, my question is I did meet someone who used a guide dog, and he told me, this was at an Usher conference, that when you go to a new place, the dog doesn't know its way around. It has to be trained. It has to learn how to get around. So what do you do if you go to a conference, like in another city or something like that?
Olga, you are muted. Press Alt plus A to unmute your microphone.
So I see Moira, you want to jump in? No, you did. Okay. So you, just like Moira said, you tell the dog to go find the doors. You tell the dog to go find the elevator. You tell the dog to go find, mine knows the death. I don't know why. If you travel a lot, they learn to pick, like at the airport, they'll pick the door that doesn't do the revolving business because they don't like revolving doors. Mine's trained to do them, but he don't like them. So it's going to go through a door, and then it's going to pick a desk, but you never know what desk. So then you do a lot of, hello, my name is Deb, am I at the such and such desk? And so it's the same thing you do with your cane. It's just that you don't, and you know.
You have to get direction. You have to get direction.
You're still in charge of the dog just like you are your cane, except for the dog is really smart, and it looks to see who's looking at you. So when you go into the bank, the dog goes to the teller that's empty because he sees the person looking at you or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, so, and different dogs are a little different the other thing I wanted to mention, if you're ever thinking about it, and I do recommend Leader Dog. I got my last one at Guide Dogs because of my mobility and other issues, but and I got 3 from Leader Dog. They were wonderful. They have a 1-week accelerated mobility training course that you can go, that's free, and you can sign up for it. And then as part of that, you can try out using a dog, but you're in the same facility with all the dogs. So you get a sense of what that would be like different. But it is, I mean, your life changes. You are outside X number of times a day, usually 5 to 7 times a day. You know, your whole world, you get up at a certain time, you go to bed at a certain time, your whole life changes because you have to take care of that dog. So it is a big commitment in that respect. But as far as traveling, the difference is with the cane, you part the sea, and with the dog, everybody wants to come see you. You never get lost with a dog because somebody's always going to say, oh, what's your dog name? You're going to hear 101 questions, and mine had 2 poodles. Oh, poodle questions. Somebody had a poodle, so my poodle's name was whatever. But you're never alone because people are there. And so when you're traveling and they put you at the gate and the gates change, for example, and I see my sister Jones on here, but I don't hear her talking. Well, I guess she left. But anyway, she got left with her cane. Once she had a dog, she never got left because people would come over and talk to her. And she'd say, oh, are you going to Chicago or wherever she was going? And they say, oh, no, they've changed that gate. So she never got put on the wrong plane ever again. So, I mean, the dogs are hugely helpful. And then when the fire alarms and all the bad stuff happens and everybody forgets you, you know, when I was working in schools, my cane was really useless in a crowd of sea of milling people. Dogs are astronomically wonderful in crowded situations. They just, you know, especially if they know where the exit is. You say, go to the exit, and man, that dog goes, and everybody gets the heck out of your way. So,
Right. I'm not that good with my cane. I mean, I can use the cane, but I'm very slow going down the block, you know,
yeah,
because
it
we
feels
also
like,
have a hearing impairment, so you can't always listen for the traffic or there's some problem with both a hearing and a vision loss using a cane.
and you laugh at me. I moved into a senior community. It's 1,500 houses, and it's wonderful. I thought, oh, good. It's nice and safe, nice, quiet streets. Yeah, well, there's about half of them driving around blind in their golf carts. I almost got run over. That's why I had to get the last dog. I almost got run over 3 times.
No, we have to look out for the bicycle.
Yes, I need a dog because I can't hear. There's a background freeway noise, and the golf carts are so quiet. I said, well, I need to get another dog or I get run over or I move. Let me see. I guess I'll get a dog.
Deb, I think you need to work for Leader Dogs in sales. Really told us how great it is to have a dog. And I can share too, I recently spent some time with someone who has a guide dog. And what I didn't know is that when you take off the guide dog's harness, that's when they know they're not working anymore, and they're just a regular dog laying around wanting to be pet and all that kind of thing. And you put the harness on them and they know they're working. So I found that fascinating.
This is Moira. I would just like to say that I have since 2016 probably traveled to Europe 5 times to do hiking trip with my guide dog. The first trip I didn't know anyone on my tour, and we were all Americans and we hiked all over Umbria. And so the dog, they show you where your room is, and then the dog remembers that every time you get off the elevator, he'll take you right to your room. And then you go down and he'll take you to the dining room, and then he'll, you know, and then when we hike, he had to be the first one in the pack. So, you know, you walking with a group of people and you can walk like anybody else. And it's just fabulous. And you get on the plane, and then when you get off the plane in Europe, there's somebody there to meet you, and they take you through customs. They help you get your bag, and then they put you in the lobby where you're going to meet the other people. It's so, my first trip was so freeing. I mean, I felt so unburdened because, you know, I'm retired and I wanted to travel, and I did it. And, you know, Martha, who was on earlier, she and I did a trip to Madeira down near Casablanca as part of Portugal. And we didn't know anybody. And we did the same, you know, group, a group called Road Scholar. And we spent 8 days hiking around this beautiful island. And you enjoy the food, you enjoy the camaraderie, but, we're two ladies in our 60s with cochlear implants and guide dogs, and we were able to do it just like anybody else.
Good for you.
Wow.
That's so inspiring.
I wanted
Sorry,
to,
but one other question about the guide dog. I don't have OCD by any means, but I do like to try to keep a clean house. And I think of, associating with people take off their shoes when they come in, at least I try to with my kids, for them to listen, but that's a different story. With a guide dog is going everywhere with you, public bathroom, the list goes on. And then they come into the house. Is it this crazy thought that, I don't know, is there any way to keep the paws, the dog paws clean? And my second comment, allergies. My son has, we're still trying to kind of figure out the trigger, but I think of, pet hair and allergies. Did that ever circumvent people from getting a guide dog? Not that they don't connect with the dog, just the fact that they just can't deal with pet hair and sneezing.
I'm sure there's hyperallergenic dogs, that lots of people get that can be guide dogs. I know many guide dogs are labs, but has anyone had any experience with getting a guide dog that when you had allergies?
So I have allergies, and I had a poodle. The first one was a poodle, standard poodle. Standard poodles have hair like we do, so they shed hair, but they don't have the dander. They're much lower. And then I had 2 labs. One was a special hypoallergenic lab, and then I went to guide dogs of the desert because they're one of the few schools that would take both me as deaf and blind and have poodles. But I still didn't have a guarantee of getting a poodle. There's limitations because the dog has to match you and stuff, so you can put in for it, but there's no guarantee. So I have to take allergy medicine all the time because I got a cat too, because I like cats, and so it's just my thing. So that's my thing. As far as the clean feet, there's 2 things you can look at that. You can get one of those. I got a little Roomba vacuum cleaner dude that drives around and cleans my floors for me, and I don't have to worry about it. But I also got a little table, and I had a little chair because I have back issues. So when the dog comes in, it jumps up on that table.
Joan sister.
And that's where I, excuse me, my crazy phone. So that's how I, anyway, it's up it's up off the floor. So I clean his feet off so he's not muddy. So you could clean him. I mean, there would be a limit. You couldn't use alcohol or anything like that on them because it would crack their pads. And when you get a poodle trimmed, you get the hair trimmed between their toes so that it doesn't pick up bark dust and crud and whatnot, bubble gum and whatever. But dogs lick everything. So, if you're really, really germ phobic, it's going to be problematic. Now, I gotten over it. I didn't like it at first. I was like, where that dog's nose go? Don't lick me. But, that's part of the deal. And it is a trade-off. It is totally a trade-off. But, it is possible. I will say that on the coronavirus side, I am really reluctant to get back on the paratransit bus. I'm not so bad about the fixed route because everybody that's sick gets on the bus, and I can wash my hands and keep my distance, but the dog's laying on the floor and all those germs. And then I know he's bringing all those germs in the house. And so I did catch that stupid virus, and I assume from that. I hadn't thought about the fact that when I pet the dog, I would then be reinfecting myself. And I got it very early on before people were wearing masks or doing anything. So I'm kind of stuck transportation-wise that way. And then there's always going to be, you're going to have 2 to 3 times a year where somebody's going to try to throw you out of a restaurant or try to throw you out of public assembly. It's just odd. It's 3 out of many hundred events. But you kind of, I don't know, you have to develop your advocacy. And I know Moira has had a tremendous time. she was my model of my hero back in the day when she was working in Oregon for Senator Wyden, and I was watching all that going, yay, go, go, Moira. But yeah, dogs can cause you a lot of complications.
Audio now unmuted.
What is your name? I couldn't catch it.
Deb?
I'm Deb Marinos.
Okay, thank you. I was just wanted to say that as far as germs, and I've run into this issue, and I actually wrote a policy petition for dogs in hospitals in the country. So legally, your service dog is allowed anywhere where humans are allowed, except for maybe burn units where humans are not allowed. What I wanted to say is dogs, they carry less communicable diseases. So I was once working with someone who was autoimmune compromised and was giving me a hard time about my dog. But in honesty, her issue should have been with people coming in with cold and flus, pneumonia, air quality. Dogs don't really transmit any diseases. I know it's changing a little bit, but dogs are, they're less likely to communicate a disease to humans than other humans.
I also believe they're not catching COVID. I know that cats have, but I don't think any dogs have at all. So, and Deb, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that.
How do I deal with it?
That's
I'm not doing any public transportation,
awful.
and I have nobody petting the dog. And I have 3 dogs. Can you hear me?
Box dash Verizon Zoom meeting. To move to an item, press the arrow keys. Zoom meeting.
This has been really fascinating, and I have really enjoyed talking with all of you. Do we want to have one more topic before we wrap up for the night, or one more question or comment?
This is Terry, and I'm going to have to leave, but the one thing I wanted to do was give a shout out to Moira. Terry Pink Alexander here, Moira.
Hey, hi.
She has been an amazing, amazing support network for the Foundation Fighting Blindness for years and years and years, and I have known her peripherally for many, many years. So thank you very much, Moira, for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
And I want to second that. Thank you
Wow.
very much.
Wow.
And Terry, before you go, I just want to mention to all of you to make sure that you're aware that tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we are having a session on Usher syndrome. And that will be much more about research and things like that, as opposed to this support group. So please join us tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
Who's presenting?
I'm sorry?
Who's the presenter?
Oh, I do not know. I don't
Okay.
have that information. I apologize.
No problem.
I'm just trying to look on the app to see if there is a presenter listed. It is a live session, so you will be able to ask questions.
Right. So I know all this research is very technical, and to figure out which is the right one for me, or
Pink Alexander has left the meeting.
maybe hopefully in the Usher meeting, it will be more geared to helping us, right?
Yes. Yes. I apologize. I do not know who that presenter is going to be, but tune in at 11 and you'll find out. I really do appreciate all of you joining us today. This has been wonderful for me, and I hope you all enjoyed it as well.
Yes,
So
I
was there
did.
anything else anybody wanted to add?
This is Dana. Well, this like a virtual support group. I never got to put in for that, but it's good to meet with a group of other people with vision loss and just discuss, what different people do and share that. It's hard to get a live support group.
Yeah.
So sometime in here in New York City, the Foundation Fighting Blindness did organize some support groups. And there's something in my neighborhood, a vision support group. But now with the virus, everything's shut down. But this is nice to have this kind of Zoom support group.
I'm so glad. That's great.
And then I guess I was just thinking for both of you that are here, I got trained in something called Mind Body Medicine through the Centers for Mind Body Medicine. And so kind of a segue between mental health counseling and that, it's an open group. It's not a support group, but it's a place to process emotions and learn all kinds of ways. And I've been really wishing I could figure out how to bring it out to blind and to deaf-blind people, because you know, you don't have the same physical activity things. You can't just go run to the gym like some people, and if you go in the gym, you probably bonk your head on some metal bar like me, or, you know, whatever. And so this thing gives you ways to be active and get out your anger, get out your frustration in concrete activities and drawing, and you know, and it's pretty well adapted. But anyway, because of COVID, it's normally expensive. They have free online virtual groups that meet weekly for either 4 to 12 weeks. So it's cmbm.org, and because they're online, they're accessible right now. But I just got done teaching a class, and I can't begin to tell you how helpful it was to me personally, even though I was the facilitator, to be able to, you know, everybody's upset, everybody's anxious, everybody's everything. So it's almost like we're part of the normal bunch for a while, which is really fun.
That's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to let you guys know that I did find out who is moderating that session tomorrow, Moira. It's going to be Jackie Duncan and Benjamin Bacall. And they're going to be moderating the Usher's live session tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
Okay, great.
Great.
So,
Lynda, I'm sorry, I'm going to go ahead and bow out. I think that the kids are needing me, so I'm going to
absolutely
go ahead and say thank you for
off.
facilitating, and thank you to everyone else for participating.
Yes.
Thank you, Katelyn. It was great to meet you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. All right, and everyone else that joined us, I really appreciate you joining us today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. So thanks so much, and join us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Have a great night.